Hello, this is Tim Hellman.
And I'm Jake Tenpass.
And this is Movie Talk. Today we're going to do our top 10 movies of 2017. And we're going to start with our close calls that didn't make the list. The Shape of Water, Logan, Battle of the Sexes, Free Fire, Alien Covenant, the Lego Batman movie, Dunkirk, Brimstone, The Disaster Artist, and Get Out.
Get Out was on your close calls?
11.
That makes me say, get out, Tim. My close calls were Buster's Malheart, It, John Wick 2, Good Time with Robert Pattinson, A Ghost Story, Beguiled, Sofia Coppola's Civil War era drama thriller. I'm gonna put Star Wars. And Lego Batman, Baby Driver is gonna be on my almost made it list. The Void, which is an excellent, excellent horror movie. It's worth saying that this year, there were so many good movies that, like, I basically made a top 25, and all of them I felt like almost could have been in that top 10 range.
So my number 10 is The Big Sick.
I love Kumail Nanjiani. It wasn't as funny as Silicon Valley was to me, and it wasn't quite touching enough.
The relationship with the parents was really touching me. And I like the two actors that played the parents too.
Okay, my number 10 was The Phantom Thread. Phantom Thread is a movie that I would say will reward repeat viewings. I would say it's enjoyable.
It's funny.
It was very funny. There were moments where I absolutely just laughed out loud. And it's so true about relationships. Like, in any long-term...
like the bread buttering and stuff, it was so good.
Oh my god. That scene where, you know, they're sitting there at the table like for the second time and she starts buttering her toast again and he kind of gives that look like, I'm gonna kill her. We've all given that look to our significant others before. And they've given it back to us because I'm super annoying and crazy, as my wife would attest. So anyway, it was a very accurate portrayal of the real dynamics of a relationship.
My number 9 is 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri.
I felt like 3 Billboards brought out like my worst impulses. Like the times I was happiest watching it were just when Frances McDormand was like sticking it to people.
I know, she's so good.
She's so good. And I mean, Sam Rockwell, to his credit, is so unlikable for like
most of
80% of the movie. I mean, there's a scene where he attacks another character, and I was so angry watching it. And props to the movie for getting an emotional rise out of me. And I found myself thinking about it a lot afterwards, which is the mark of a good movie. For me, it didn't quite make my list. My number 9 movie was Dutch director Martin Koolhaven, film Brimstone. An amazing period piece that is as much horror movie or thriller as it is Western. It features one of the most diabolically evil characters in recent movie history. Guy Pearce is incredible. Everybody's incredible, honestly. Dakota Fanning gives like a remarkable performance in it. Really changed how I thought about her. Kit Harington, who has, you know, a somewhat smaller part, is also good. I mean, in some ways, if you look at President Trump and recoil with how vitriolic his misogyny is, this movie's either going to be cathartic for you or it's going to be incredibly disturbing. And maybe both, because it was both for me. Like, it was so disturbing, and yet at the end it was cathartic because that kind of male, chauvinist, controlling nonsense has existed forever. We've risen above it, and we will continue to rise above it. And I found it to be almost like a religious experience, which is funny because the main bad guy is a reverend, and it's a pretty damning look at Dutch Christianity. Being a Dutch person, I've always heard that about my own people, and based on that movie, God, they were some weird tyrants.
My number 8 is Shut Up, Anthony. You probably haven't seen it.
I've not even heard of that movie.
It's a Portland film. It played at the same film festival that my short film did, and it's a feature length directed by Kyle Eaton. He's also the nephew of a teacher I had.
Oh, really?
But it's a really good movie. I think you'd like it.
Awesome. What kind of movie is it? Like a drama?
It's like a character study, like a really neurotic kind of OCD guy. A real dialogue-driven movie, and it's really well written and acted and directed, I thought.
I'll have to check that out. Sounds great. My number 8 movie was Okja. An incredible movie, and I'm not going to steal your thunder by talking about it too heavily, but I will say...
What did you think of the tonal shift?
Yeah, you know, as we've discussed a little bit, it's like a live-action cartoon. Some characters in it are insanely over the top, to the point where, like, you question the choices that either the director made or the actor made. When I go back and look at it with the internal logic of it being like a cartoon, their performances make more sense. It's just there's so much in the movie that is so real. I feel like the Academy is going to have to change in the coming years and start accepting that some movies aren't going to premiere in theaters, because you can't dismiss a movie like Okja. Huge Hollywood talent, an amazing, like, top of the game international director, like, beautiful special effects. I mean, that should be compared to any other big theatrical release that came out this year, I feel like.
Yeah. My number 7 is Molly's Game. It's just amazing dialogue, amazing character development, and Jessica Chastain gives one of the best performances of the year, in my opinion.
I am excited to see it. It looks good.
Yeah.
My number 7 movie is Colossal, with Anne Hathaway and Jason Sudeikis.
And he's the most hateful character he's ever played, I think.
He absolutely is. And I mean, I like Jason Sudeikis, and I thought this movie really tapped into both the charming, disarming side of his personality and the sort of latent, bitter, grudge-holding, white, angry man. And I definitely have both those sides inside me, and we all fight our own fight between our charming, understanding, relatable side and our more judgmental side.
And it was like a Me Too story, I think.
Yeah.
And he was her boss, too.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's a good point. I hadn't even really thought about that in the wake of the Me Too movement. No, but yeah, I can definitely see that. If you like, you know, interesting, occasionally funny, smart dramas, and you also like giant monster movies, Colossal's the movie for you.
My number 6 is Lady Bird. Did you see it?
No, I didn't see it.
You never saw it? Oh.
Can't say that it's...
I wanted to know your opinion on it.
I'll see it at some point. I like Greta Gerwig.
Yeah.
Saoirse Ronan can be real good, but that's a hard movie for me to want to see in the theater. I just like, I'd hear it was good and I'd be like, I want to see it, and then I'd watch a preview and go, God, that looks boring.
Really? I loved it.
Oh, well, good.
It's hilarious from start to finish.
I'll watch it. Okay, well, my number 6 movie was Blade Runner 2049. As a coworker recently reminded me, it is not a movie for everyone. The studio betting that it was going to be a huge hit was a bad bet, because the original Blade Runner was not a hit. It's long. It's very involved. You can't not pay attention, like, despite how slow moving it is. But if you can be just patient and give yourself over to it, it's really a rewarding experience, I think.
My number 5 is Baby Driver. It was really, really entertaining and kind of Tarantino-esque a little bit.
I don't know why that one didn't make my list. I mean, like I said, I put it on my almost made it. At the end of the day, it was a tough call. That movie was so enjoyable to watch. It was so fun to me. And yet, for a movie that's mostly just kind of fun bubblegum, it did have consequences for the characters. And it wasn't just like, oh, everything turns out great. You know?
It was a little surprising the way it ended.
Yeah. My number 5 movie is Coco. Pixar's animated story focusing on the Day of the Dead, or Dia de los Muertos, and a child who loves music, who's born into a family in which music is forbidden and has to chase his passion and try to realize his dream, if it means crossing over into the land of the dead. And by the end of the movie, where you realize that, you know, people in the land of the dead only last as long as their memories do in the world of the living.
It's a great concept.
Yeah, and the way someone's remembered after they die can change, you know, or even during their lifetime. Dude, I'm going to be honest. I teared up at the end of that movie.
I did tear up in Inside Out. That was really touching me.
Inside Out was really good too.
I did remember it being touching at the end, but I don't know if I cried tears enough.
I get touched by the weirdest things though.
I get touched by a lot of movies, so I don't remember always that I did get touched.
Tim, show me on the doll where the movie touched you.
So my number 4 is What the Health. You probably haven't seen it.
I have not watched that. I am aware of it, and I've heard good things.
I'm a vegan, so it's a...
What? You're a vegan? Oh my god! I never would have agreed to this.
And it like made more people go vegan than like almost anything else, so I admire it for that. And I just think it was a good informative documentary, educational.
I've heard it mentioned in the same breath as Food Inc. There's a lot of those documentaries that are real powerful and are changing the way people think about their food. I mean, Okja is another movie that definitely makes you think about meat production, and not in like a super heavy-handed way. It's a part of the story. It's a fabric of the story. Like, I definitely have been thinking more about my own consumption of red meat since watching Okja. So, what the hell? My number 4 movie was Free Fire.
I wasn't even sure if you saw that.
Oh my god, I've seen it 3 times.
Really?
Yeah, I may have seen it more than any movie in the last
year. I thought I might be the only one to put it in my top 20.
Oh,
but
dude, I love
so
Free Fire. Oh my god.
I don't know why no one's like talking about it.
People love Pulp Fiction. There's a smaller subgroup of people that love Reservoir Dogs. And Free Fire was definitely a very Reservoir Dogsy movie.
The problem is that I don't think most people people seen it.
No, it got a super small release despite having a great cast. I think it was such a funny movie. I think it was such a small movie, and it was such an inversion of action movies. Because like action movies are all about like, you know, even John Wick, it's all about like slow motion and how dope they look, like doing, like killing people. This was a movie about how nobody looks good when they kill people. They all look idiotic, and like, it just was hilarious.
My number 3 is Star Wars: The Last Jedi.
You know, honestly, I'm just going to say I didn't put that movie on my top 10 list because I knew it was going to be on your top 10 list. And because everybody's talking about it. Nobody needs me to tell them to go see Star Wars. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. I maybe enjoyed it more than I have enjoyed any Star Wars movie since like Return of the Jedi. And I think it was better than Return of the Jedi. It was not quite as good as Rogue One maybe for me.
It wasn't as emotional.
But there was a sense of joy to it that there wasn't really as much of in Rogue One.
A lot of people don't like that there was so much humor in it.
See, it's funny because I thought the humor was far more effective in this movie than it was in The Force Awakens.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like The Force Awakens, I found a lot of the humor to really fall flat in that, whereas I found the humor in this, like, very funny. It maintained being funny, but being also a high-stakes action movie in which I really cared about what happened.
And there's even some animal rights messages in it.
Totally. I think you're seeing that in a lot of movies now because of your consciousness has been changed in that regard, which I think is awesome. But because I am friends with you on Facebook and you are always talking about that stuff, I think about it too, and definitely thought about it with the scene where Chewbacca doesn't want to eat the things. He sees it's the same creature that's by him.
And then when they go to the city and the creatures are getting whipped and stuff.
Well, and the other thing about the casino plan is it's a great showing of why the revolution needs to happen. Like in real life, like why we need to be thinking in a more challenging way of our governmental system, because there are a lot of rich people that don't care about poor people and they're off living ridiculously decadent lives, myself included sometimes, not that I'm rich, but like we all do decadent things that other people in society can't do, and it's like there's a rift growing between the classes, and it's getting worse. And I think as much people might
because there's more of a divide than there ever has been.
Yeah, and I think people don't like that casino scene in Star Wars. I've heard several people say they didn't like that, but to me, that's what drives home the ultimate point that like you can't have certain people living that ridiculously lavish and everybody else living down here and have it be a stable system. There has to be checks and balances to make sure that the rich don't get too rich and that the poor don't get too poor. And when that stops happening, society stops working, in my opinion. My number 3 movie was Darren Aronofsky's Mother. I mean, there's no doubt that the subject matter of Mother is difficult to watch, and it's a surreal movie. It's dreamlike. It also is allegorical. And sometimes it can be a little heavy-handed with that. But having said that,
Florence said that she thought maybe they went too far in a few scenes.
I would disagree, because sometimes a movie has to go further than would make most people comfortable in order to really like get to me. And that movie did get to me, and I thought it was a fascinating examination of the relationship between poet and muse, and the relationship between man and earth, and the relationship between man and God and woman and God, and you know, there's so much there to digest, and it was just a masterpiece of editing and cinematography. I loved it. Definitely can't wait to watch it again.
Okay. My number 2 is Wonder Woman. I just thought it was really entertaining from start to finish. The banter between Chris Pine and her was great, I thought. And there were just some really cool action scenes. I thought, like when she charges the German army. And I just thought it was cool to have a woman superhero, finally.
I will not disagree with
and
you.
And it was directed by a woman too, so I thought that was perfect. And I just love Gal Gadot. I think she's amazing.
Is it Got It?
I thought it was good.
Anyway, I won't disagree with you that it was great to have a movie about a female superhero. There were some great action sequences, and I didn't find it very funny.
Really?
I didn't find the dialogue all that great, and I thought that the ending was marred by a pretty stupid main villain. And also there was just so much overuse of slow motion in it. Like, come on guys, I don't need to see another shot where somebody jumps in the air, and then the camera zooms 360 around them and shows me them from every angle. Like, I'm kind of over that. I'm bored with it. Like,
I thought it was exciting still.
And I don't want to diss it. I think a lot of women went to the theater and loved it and saw in that movie a hero that was relatable to them in a way that a lot of other superheroes haven't been in recent years. And to me, I just respect the hell out of that power. If that film had more meaning and was more effective for others than it was for me, then awesome. It just it didn't rock my world. My number 2 is Get Out, director Jordan Peele's masterpiece of psychological horror, and I really related to the main character in this movie. I thought it was just such a great dissection of like white people's fetishization of black culture, and I am like the ultimate thing of this because I like just absolutely worship hip hop and jazz and funk and all these things. I feel like Jordan Peele just did such a great job of like poking me and also making me totally entertained at the same time. It was a good skewering of white liberals. It was a good skewering of like parents and how progressive they think they are. I am so afraid of being brainwashed, and there's nothing worse in my mind than going to that sunken place or whatever they called it. I just was like, man, what an effective, like, scary movie that's also surprisingly funny at moments.
Oh yeah, it was really, really funny.
Yeah.
My number 1 is Okja. Really entertaining and really emotional. I mean, I would have cried back when I wasn't vegan. I mean, it was so
it was touching.
It was touching at the end.
I thought it was
so beautiful. I thought the scenes with her and like just letting it breathe on her. I have mixed feelings about Jake Gyllenhaal's character, but I understand what he was going for. I think.
Yeah.
With that character. And I love the animal rights activists, so I thought they were really entertaining.
Well, I mean,
and I can relate to them, obviously. But
so often the animal liberation front and animal rights activists in general are portrayed in mainstream culture as being some fringe lunatic group. I don't know what the truth of the matter is. There are people that are activists of all kinds that go too far, I'll say that. But like, I liked seeing them cast in a different light, a very humanizing light, that there are people with real stories that are behind this movement. My number 1 movie was The Shape of Water. I thought the power of Sally Hawkins' performance was undeniable. And talk about, like, I mean, another movie that just totally nails what is wrong with the political climate in the U.S. right now. The creature is an immigrant. Like, this villain that spends the entire movie persecuting this thing for absolutely no reason. And it focuses so starkly and so perfectly on the other versus, like, the accepted reality. But then it also perfectly shows how messed up the relationship between Michael Shannon and his wife is. Love can be such a tricky thing, and there are so many ways it can go wrong that when it goes right, who are we to question the form that it takes and the shape that it takes? And for me, that Shape of Water was a movie that was just ultimately so beautiful and so touching in its portrayal of this relationship and its portrayal of people finding the strength to peacefully stand up to what's wrong in the world. I was personally blown